Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fearless with Mary. I am your host, Mary Tibbetts, and I am so happy you are here with me today. On today's episode, we are diving into all things emotional to do with MS because MS is not just physical. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Today, I want to talk about how nobody prepares you for how much mental and emotional toll this disease can take on a person, even if you have really great mental health before you're diagnosed. It can be very, very difficult for people to understand and move through their new life. So I want to touch on all of those subjects, well, as many of them as I possibly can today. Some days I feel like I've got it all under control, and other days I'm struggling to accept what's happening to my body. A lot of the time, I don't even feel like there's anything going on unless I'm in the Oculus crap gap. That's what they call it, I guess. I'm just finding this out. I know for me, I have always been the type of person to do everything all the time. I never slow down. I ran a flower shop. I had kids and a husband, and the kids had sports, and, clean the house and make dinner and just go out with friends, go do this, go do that. And I actually noticed even before I got diagnosed, I was starting to slow down a lot, and I couldn't figure out what was going on or why that was happening. And it was very, very, very frustrating for me. I would feel very, very guilty about it. And I think I still feel guilty, not as much as I did in the beginning, but I do still feel very guilty if I don't get the groceries, or I don't clean the house, or I only take on a few clients here and there instead of multiple clients like I would before. So the guilt is real, and it settles in, and I don't think people understand that it's so difficult for somebody who has been very capable their whole entire life to just all of a sudden not be capable to do everything. And don't get me wrong, this is my journey. This is not necessarily your journey, but I know for me, I really feel the guilt about slowing down and not being able to do everything that I used to do. I also feel a lot of guilt when I ask people for help. I have never been the type of person to ask anybody for help. It's very hard for me to ask for help from people, and I feel very guilty when I do it. So if this sounds like you, I just need you to know that it's okay. You're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to slow down. If anything, you should be slowing down and not be feeling any guilt about it whatsoever, because you need to take care of you at the end of the day so you can function the next day and then help everybody else. And I heard an analogy once. It was the airplane analogy. So if you're on an airplane, they always do the safety thing at the beginning, and the flight attendant always says, if the masks drop down, put your mask on first before you help anybody else. And so I try to live by that as much as I can, that I need to help myself before I can help anybody else. And one of the things is for me to ask for help and not feel the guilt for slowing down. Another thing that I get very upset with myself about and feel very guilty about is the canceling of the plans. So I was actually doing that even before I got diagnosed. Even going to the gym, we would have to book in a time, and then I would end up canceling it. I would get charged the $15 because I wasn't able to go that day, and I would feel guilty and I would feel horrible about it. Or even making plans with my friends to go and do something and cancel last minute because I was just so tired. I just was so done. I'm sure people's feelings got hurt along the way. And then once I got my diagnosis, it made a lot more sense to me. I just want people to understand it's not that we don't want to see you or hang out with you. It's just sometimes we just can't. And we're just so tired and so exhausted and fatigued. That MS fatigue that I talk about a lot has set in. So it makes it very difficult to be able to go and do things with people. So trust me, we feel the guilt about it. We feel it all the time. And then we get frustrated, and then we feel guilty about being frustrated. And then we get angry with ourselves, which doesn't help, which causes us to be stressed. It's a whole cycle. It's horrible. I'm just putting it out there. It's horrible. Another thing that has hit my emotions pretty hard in the last, well, it's been almost a year. We're in March now. My first episode was April 17th. So yeah, it's almost a year. Another one for me is grieving my old self. And I do this quietly, and I do it by myself because it's hard for me to share that with people, that I grieve my old self. And it's really hard, I think, for people to understand what I'm trying to say when I say that. So my old self could go and do the stairs with one of my best friends. We would go and run the stairs. We would do a walk. And I know I could do that now. I haven't attempted it yet. I know that I could do that now. I'm just really nervous to do that now because I don't know how many days that's going to actually set me back. If I go and do that, yes, it's exercise. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge advocate for exercising. I'm registered to run a half marathon this year. I'm damn determined to do it. But I just know that if I was to do something like that and it wasn't scheduled properly and I didn't have everything in place for it, that could wreck me for days. I really grieve my old self when it comes to stuff like that. I also grieve my old self when it comes to my moods and how bright I feel like I used to be. I used to be so full of life and sunshine. I guess that's the best way for me to explain it. At least I thought I was. Now I'm definitely more calm and more thoughtful in the things that I do and say than I was 2 years ago. So I do grieve my old self because she was awesome. And so is this version of me. It's just a very different version of me. I think for people that have been newly diagnosed, or even people that have been diagnosed for a while, you just need to know it's okay for you to grieve your old self because you lost them. You're never going to get that old self back ever again. The grieving of losing yourself, because that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like you've completely lost yourself because your body is actually fighting itself right now. And you need to be very careful about anything and everything that you do. It's very, very frustrating. So it is okay to grieve yourself. It would be almost strange if you didn't. So just know that it's part of the process. 100%. Because I grieve the things I used to do without even thinking about doing it. You know, I would run up the stairs. I would stay up late. I would work nonstop. I would do Mother's Day at the flower shop or Valentine's Day at the flower shop, which is a week long of crazy, wild, late nights. Some nights we were there till 2 or 3 in the morning, back at it at 6:30 in the morning. Like it was wild and crazy. And it's things that people don't see if you don't own a flower shop. But anyway, that's besides the point. But we would do it and we would, you know, have coffee all night. And the one time we had snacks and some beer and just made so like it was possible back then. That would not be possible for me to do now. And I think I took it for granted so much that I was able to do it that I actually worked myself into being stressed and making my MS worse, to the point that I had a flare up and found out that I had MS. So it was a curse and a blessing all at the same time. Another thing is the unexpected grief of unpredictability. Some days I wake up feeling great. Other days my body has very, very, very different plans about what is going to be happening. And I never know which version I'm going to be getting in the morning. I try very hard to stick to a very regimented routine, especially at night. I go to bed, I do my journaling, I do my meditation, and then I go to sleep. And I have the temperature in my room perfect, my pillows exactly how they need to be. That being said, if my jaw and my head feel like doing it, and they just hurt so much, then it feels like I am laying on a pillow of rocks and it's the worst thing on the face of the planet and I can't get comfortable and it hurts all across my forehead and then down into my jaw. And if you get that, I'm so sorry because it's horrible. I also have the feet pain, the hot, the cold, all of it, where my calves feel like they're on fire, but my feet feel like they're in buckets of ice water. It all depends on the type of sleep that I have for the next day. Or I could have a great sleep and my body just is like, I don't really want to today. So that is so unexpected and so unpredictable. And it's very, very hard, especially when you're already grieving your old self and not being able to do the things that you used to be able to do. And it's crazy because I feel like I had my initial huge flare-up in April last year. And I can say 100%, I have not recovered fully from it. It's strange because I thought in my head, being the type of person that I am, I would have thought, oh, I'm going to recover from this. It's 100%. I'm going to. And there's parts of me that has not recovered from it fully. So I'm doing everything I possibly can to make it that I don't have another flare-up. I had my first treatment in October of Oculus, and it plays with your emotions. Well, it did for me. It played with my emotions. So I had to have it in 2 separate sittings, where the first one you go and then 2 weeks later you go for the second half of it. So first half and then second half 2 weeks later. And the second time that I went for it, I already knew what to expect. I was going to be there for 5 to 6 hours, had my blanket, had all my snacks, had everything. But I had I don't know if it was a strange reaction or what it was, but they give you the steroids and the Benadryl, and then they give you your infusion. So the Benadryl makes you dopey, but the steroids give you it makes it that you can't sleep. So makes it so I can't sleep. I can't speak for everybody. This is just my experience. I had my treatment, was up that whole entire night, the whole next day, and then I'd say until about 4 a.m. the next night after that. Got 4 hours of sleep, woke up it would have been the 3rd day, and I went into this horrible depression. I have never felt like that before in my life. I had suicidal tendencies. I had to call my husband at work. I was a mess. I called one of my MS support people, one of my girlfriends, who, thank God, could talk me down off of it. And I remember I went on Instagram and I was like, I'm never doing that again. And I'm going to this, that, and blah, 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 because I was so mad. And that's ridiculous because I haven't even given myself a full year so I can see what it does for me, what it doesn't do for me. That being said, I do follow holistic diets, and I also follow my Oculus treatments at this point, just until I can see what works for me and what doesn't work for me. I need to do anything and everything to give myself a fighting chance at this point. It's crazy because I just went off my rocker. Like, don't get me wrong, I can be a bit of a hothead in my past life, the previous version of me. But I had to take it down. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, why would I do that? I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to work or not work. Like, I'm so mad. But I think looking back, I was more mad and upset because that I had to do it in the first place. I was grieving myself. I was angry with the outcome of the last 45 years leading up to that point. I was just angry and grieving and very upset. So it's a very real emotion when you have MS, and it's a very real thing. And if you are grieving your old self and struggling, just know you are not alone on any level. Another one that's really hard that I find is the loneliness of having MS. When I say that, a lot comes along with it. It's hard when people don't understand what I'm going through, especially when they look at me and they're like, "Oh, but you look so great." And don't get me wrong, I appreciate the compliments. I'm taking them. Don't stop giving them to me. But it's when they like, "Oh, you don't look sick. You look fine." I'm like, yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. So it's really hard to have a conversation with people who don't understand what I'm going through, because on the outside, I look really great. And then on the inside, it's a whole other situation. If you were able to do an X-ray vision of what is going on inside of my body, I think it would probably scare a lot of people. I think it would scare me, to be honest. I go for my next MRI on my brain on April 17th. So I'm really hoping and praying that I was able to shrink a lesion and that nothing has gotten worse in that department. This is something that I have to walk around with all the time. And I don't think that people understand. They don't understand that the fatigue, anything and everything, all of the little shorts that I do on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, where I'm trying to explain it to people, like forgetting what I'm doing, standing in the kitchen. I understand that everybody does that, but I do it probably like 9 or 10 times a day. So it's a little bit aggressive. I won't lie. It's very, very, very frustrating. It's also very frustrating to explain MS over and over and over again to people. I shouldn't actually even say that, because it's also very scary, and I'm very nervous because the fear of the unknown is with me every single day. I have no idea what the next day is going to bring. And I try very hard to live in the moment, in the day, in the second, in the everything. I love taking pictures. I am a picture person, so I can go back and I can actually relive that moment and try and remember exactly what was magical about that exact moment. Of course, that's what pictures are for, but I just find that I appreciate them on a very different level now than I did a year ago. The fear of the unknown freaks me the hell out. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Will my symptoms get worse? Will new ones appear? Because, to be fair, MS does not have a roadmap, and it's terrifying. Like, at least if you were to break your leg, okay, I broke my leg. It's going to get better. Here's my cast. Once they take the cast off, I'm going to need some physio, but the bone's going to go back together, and this is going to be great. And then I can move on with my life. I don't have that option right now, as I'm pretty sure that anybody diagnosed with MS does not have that option right now. It's very scary, and it freaks me out. I'm not going to lie. It's very, very, very scary. My biggest fear, because I've had it happen and it scared me and it was terrifying, my biggest fear is my leg's not working. because the day that my legs didn't work, I can't even explain how terrified I was. Just terrified. So to any of my MS warriors out there who struggle with mobility and function of your legs, please know that I do understand, not to the extent that I could at this point, but I feel for you on so many levels, on so many levels. And when I say every morning I wake up and I'm grateful that my legs are working, I am not full of shit on that. I am 100% telling the truth. I am so grateful every morning when I wake up and my legs work. Let's pull out of all of the sad stuff and start talking about some of the things that we can do. Number one, I would say find self-compassion in the mess. You could talk to a friend. A lot of the time I actually talk to myself. I talk to my animals. I talk to my husband. I talk to anybody really that will listen. Also learn to celebrate the small wins. Any small win. Days that I don't want to get up and go to the gym, but I actually still get up and I go to the gym and I do my little bit of weight training. I try to do a run every time I go to build up my stamina. Anytime that I do that, that is a win. I'm very excited that I've done it. But then I have a video that I sent to my husband right before Christmas, and I was having a horrible day. It was actually it was in November, actually. It was after treatment. It was the week right after. And I was just kind of coming out of everything. And I sent him this video. I'm looking into the camera and I'm like, okay, I got up. I took a shower. I did my hair. I put on makeup. I put earrings in. I'm going to Costco, even if it's just for a half an hour to do some Christmas shopping, but I am not wearing a bra. And that's what the world gets from me today. And I actually think I should post it because it's very funny. I laughed. I watched it the other day and I was laughing at it. But to me, that was the biggest win ever that day. The fact that I was so fatigued, I was so done. I still got up, I put makeup on, put my earrings in, and I still went and I did something. That is a win for me. So even if you are just having the worst day possible and all you can do is manage to get up and go and brush your teeth, that's your win for the day. You need to find even just the smallest little wins and celebrate them. I've also managed to find new ways to feel strong because I know I can't do everything that I used to do, but I'm determined to still be a strong human, inside, outside, everything. And strength looks very, very different to me now than it did before. Being strong before was me going and doing anything and everything with everybody all the time because I thought that's what I needed to do. Me being strong now is saying, no, I'm really sorry, I can't make it. Or if I'm really having a horrible day and my symptoms are really bad, I just say, I'm really sorry. I know that I made plans with you, but I'm going to have to reschedule them. Or maybe instead of us going out, maybe you would like to come over and we could just have a tea here. Or instead of going out to, I don't know, go for a walk or go for a run, I'm really fatigued. I don't know if I can do that. Would you mind coming over and we could watch a movie? These are things that I would love my friends to do. And I would love doing it with them. To me, that's being strong for myself and setting the boundaries with myself when it comes to what I can and what I can't do. I've also needed to realize that no matter how lonely I've been with all of this, and when I say lonely, I don't mean nobody's in my house and everybody deserted me. That's not what I mean. I mean, well, I had explained it earlier. It's very hard to talk to people who aren't experiencing what I'm experiencing or have never experienced what I'm experiencing or that will never experience what I'm experiencing because I just function very differently than I ever used to. I needed to recognize that I'm not alone, that there are other people out there that have MS that I can reach out to, and there's communities. That is also one of the reasons I started my community page on Facebook for people with MS. And I did set up a walk here in Edmonton on May 4th. It's just a community walk. It's not a fundraiser. It's nothing like that. It's honestly just for other warriors or really anybody that wants to come out to make a community of support for my local people, because I just think that it's important and we need it. We need that human connection with people that understand what's going on. And I would love to hear everybody's story and see if there's any way that I can help, or see if there's any way that they can help me. It's all about back and forth and collaborating on what works best for you, for me, for everybody. Just try and make life so much more pleasant for our community. Another thing is let go of comparison, because my journey is very different than your journey, and your journey is very, very different than my journey. Just because something has happened to me doesn't mean that it's happening to you, and vice versa. We all think very differently. We all do things very differently. I am a strong believer in I pass no judgment, and I would hope that nobody passes judgment on me on the decisions that I make when it comes to really anything. But when it comes to how I manage my MS, what I do medication-wise, what I don't do medication-wise, I honestly think it's best if nobody ever compares themselves to another MS warrior, because we do not have the same story to tell. It's all very, very, very different. Even our backstories. Like if you went back to when you were a kid and you remember the very, very first time that something happened that stressed you out, my story is very different than your story. I'm very good at giving myself permission to rest now, because rest isn't lazy. Rest is survival at this point. So if I need to rest, I need to not feel guilty about it. You need to not feel guilty about it. And you need to take really good care of yourself. And don't get me wrong, I am not a pro at the resting thing. I'm still working on it. It's very hard for me because I am all over all the time, need to be doing something. It does get easier, I promise. Just cut out a certain portion of the day, maybe that you do a half an hour nap, or you lay down for a half an hour, or you just do active rest where you read a book or something like that. Anything along those lines will definitely help in the rest area. I know that I am more than MS. MS is just part of my life, but it's not my whole life at this point. I have my kids, I have my pets, I have my husband, I have things that I want to do. I want to travel. I want to run my marathon. I want to do all of those things. So at the end of the day, just like you, if you have MS and you're listening to this, I am an MS warrior. And I am proud to say that at this point. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you loved this episode. Stay tuned for so many more amazing episodes to do with MS. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Fearless with Mary podcast. I appreciate you being here. If you love this episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an update. And if you're ready to take things to the next level with one-on-one mentoring, head on over to my website at www.fearlesswithmarytibbetts.ca to learn more. Let's get you moving towards big, fearless action. See you next time.